Yeah, we're going to get into the multi-plat situation. I think it's happening at rocket speed. Xbox, is doing well by putting their games on PlayStation. That's well documented. And listen, businesses are going to business, right? That's just what happens. Sony's a corporation. They're $1 billion corporation. They want the same success that Xbox is having on their platform, and they want to see that success. And I got to be honest with you, based on this new trailer, which again, folks, it does have "Here Comes the Boom," so I'm not going to play it. I'm going to add it to the show notes if you want to, watch it for yourself. I've watched it 4 times, and like I said, folks, stay till after the credits. Like any good MCU film, the last 10 seconds is all you need to know on what is happening on August 26th. But listen, gentlemen, as we wait for Infinite Umbra to show up, because he should be here momentarily, let's get into this breaking news. Now, of course, I am using Clobriel's post because he put it up, and it says basically, here is the Helldivers 2 launch trailer officially from Arrowhead Studios, and of course, it does finish with PlayStation Studios. It says coming to Xbox Series X and S on August 26th. The trailer seems, ladies and gentlemen, to tease Halo ODST crossover. And again, folks, I'm not spoiling it for you. I'm getting goosebumps like a big old nerd. Yes, it does appear, ladies and gentlemen, that ODST X this game Helldivers 2 is happening. Here's why. And I got to give credit where credit is massively due. Now, Brett Bingham and I talk in DMs pretty much all the time. And he brought up an incredible point. So I want to read some. So, of course, I'm all about context, right? Now, obviously, on 8/26, 2 big things are happening. Gears of War Reloaded is not only coming to Xbox, but it's releasing on PlayStation for the first time. That's a super monster-sized big deal. In that same vein of conversation, Helldivers 2, a PlayStation and PC exclusive, is releasing on Xbox. That's a super monster-sized deal. Both platforms are getting IPs that they've never had before. This is the world of gaming that we are in right now. And again, that conversation is going to be forwarded to the second half of the show where we talk about this business meeting. But for context of the Helldivers 2 conversation that we're having right now, here is a very interesting thought and theory. Now, again, if you watch the trailer, and I think everybody who's here probably has already watched it or is watching it literally right now, stay for the after credits. There are 10 seconds. There is no music. There is no words. It's simply, well, see for yourself. But interestingly enough, thanks to Brett Bingham, 8/26. I did not even know this, and I am a Halo freak master, ladies and gentlemen. 8/26 is the day or the date in Halo lore for the fall of Reach. Like, I did not even know that. And he quotes Phil Spencer, who roughly said that game belongs on Xbox because it's in the vein of what games we offer here. Arrowhead had said, while we like PlayStation, we are launching our next game across multiple platforms, which makes, and this is Brett now speaking, which makes me wonder, is Arrowhead going to be working with Microsoft, or more specifically with Xbox, on their next game? And will it in fact be a Halo ODST game? The Fall of Reach would literally fall in line with the Helldivers PvE gameplay. Jamie Moran, that is nothing short of brilliant. Now, folks, I'm not a spoiler kind of guy, but we got to have this conversation. The end of this Helldivers 2 trailer shows a city that looks like Reach, and it simply shows in the distance a drop pod, a singular drop pod dropping to the surface and making an explosion, and it ends. Look, folks, I don't know so much about you, but I'm a big nerd for this kind of stuff. I love crossovers, and I think that it just makes too much sense. 826 Helldivers 2 coming to Xbox for the first time. I wish Umber was here because him and I had this conversation a couple of weeks ago on how freaking crazy would it be to be able to use ODST armor for this game. It looks like that is happening. I'm here to tell you, folks, I honestly believe in my heart of hearts, this Halo crossover that it seems very apparent is going to freaking move this game on Xbox. And I'm saying it now, folks. I'm saying it right now. We don't have the official numbers on PlayStation outside of simple deduction, which is they've sold 14.2 million copies of this game at last check. 12 million of those games, of the copies, come the way of PC. That leaves, and again, I'm no mathematician, folks, but that leaves 2.2 million copies sold on PlayStation. Is that a lot? I don't think so when you keep touting that you have 83 million consoles, or 88 now, whatever it is, that have shipped. That's a lot of consoles out in the wild. That's not a lot of people buying this game. Now, the question is why? Not because it's not a quality game. The game is dope. I bought it on PlayStation 5 gladly. But Jamie Moran, again, there's a lot of assumptions here, but we have to go based on some, facts that just happened. At the end of this trailer, it looks and appears to be an ODST drop pod. I mean, that's clear as day. If that happens, and they do have ODST a part of this, some sort of a crossover, brother, I think this game is going to sell like absolute hotcakes on Xbox. And I would even dare say that it could surpass the amount of sales on PlayStation, its own home origination. Like, it could actually beat out PlayStation 5 sales. And I think that could happen in the first week of this. Brother, this is great marketing. This is smart. This is exciting. It's, we know that there's some Halo stuff happening in October thanks to Mr. Rebs, who's been talking about it. Supposedly it's going to happen at the Halo Championships in Texas. We don't know exactly what's happening, but man, if this happens to come to fruition and it is ODST skins that you're running around in, I think this is going to sell like hotcakes, brother. What are your thoughts?
It makes a lot of sense. At the end of the trailer, you see it's blatantly meant to be New Mombasa, and like the drop shot pod of the Odyssey drop shot pod. Like, that is the thing is about sci-fi. And if people follow me on Twitter, they know I ramble on about sci-fi all the time.
Of course you do. That's your thing.
There's massive similarities between a lot of sci-fi franchises, and ODST and Helldivers have a lot in common when it comes to designs of armor, the drop pods. Those kind of drop pods are very popular in sci-fi. So for the game, all they really have to do is just make some fancy Halo style skin for it. And we have seen skins for other IP on other consoles before, like bit of a weird one to bring up, I know, but back when Death Stranding 1 was exclusive to PlayStation and they had the publishing rights, you could get the Death Stranding skin in Fall Guys, right? So on Xbox, so they have done stuff like this before. Obviously not in the same level because it's Halo, but it just makes a lot of sense. Ever since the game came out last year and people have been wanting the game to come to Xbox, the Helldivers 2 community, they've been wanting the game to come to Xbox for a year now. And there's been so many different ODST memes. If you're going to do a franchise crossover for skins, that is the one sub franchise you really have to do. Not just Halo, but ODST. And how well is it going to sell? I think it's going to sell really well. Like it's smart for PlayStation to put this on Xbox because like it's a co-op shooter where you shoot aliens and robots. Right? Like Xbox fans have 20 plus years doing this, and I think they laid this up. And like look at ODST fans, right? You have two options: play ODST and MCC, or you're going to be able to get this, right? So it's going to be a fresh experience for a lot of people, and yeah, it's going to be a big deal. We're obviously going to be talking about other titles by Sony that'll come at some point, but like for Helldivers 2, it is a very Xbox centric game. Even though I do think the whole shooter box thing isn't much of a thing anymore, like Xbox fans have spent decades essentially fighting aliens in, Halo and Gears. So yeah, it's going to do well. It's going to do well across the board. And like, will it sell more than Sony? I don't know. It's hard to say, but I think it's going to do bloody well. People always say that Xbox fans don't buy games, and then my retort is that most games don't launch in Game Pass. So what are they playing? It's going to do well. The Halo thing, that's obvious a Halo tease. Like it can't be taken any other way. If you have a drop shot pod, lying in the middle of a street that looks like New Mombasa, and it's raining, and you're playing sweet, smooth jazz, like that is ODST. It's nothing else. So I think it's going to be big. It's going to be a big launch for PlayStation. I've seen a lot of excitement for this. Funny thing is, over the past week, I've seen a lot of how shall I say boycotting for Black Myth Wukong, right? And I understand why, but it's funny that the game that's made by a third party developer is getting this, but the game made by PlayStation, they completely fine. But it is a game that's coming to Xbox, made by the developers, pushed by PlayStation, not arbitrarily left off for a year because of whatever deal we don't know about, because magically, like it took them exactly 1 year to the day to get Black Myth Wukong working on the Xbox Series S, but that's a story for another day. It's gonna do well. It's gonna be big, and PlayStation, they're gonna see a lot of success from it, and especially with Halo stuff tied to it, like Halo skins are gonna pop off with that.
I mean, listen, I said it the last time. Umbra said it the last time. Take my money, please. I don't know if these are going to be skins you have to buy, or if you pre-ordered it and it's going to be like, hey, you're playing an Xbox, boom. Look, this is a very strange time in gaming, Crispy Bomb. Things are that's the best way to describe it. Nintendo is the first one to make $80 games. Xbox is putting games onto PlayStation like Forza and Gears of War, and Helldivers seems to be the first salvo or shot across the bow on PlayStation doing something that Xbox was loathed by many of their community members for doing, and that is cross-platform pollination. Putting their games on a platform that they've never done before. And sales will determine what Sony does next. Again, we're gonna get into the second half of the show is going to be about this business meeting that has really erupted on social media, and there are people that are trying to dissect what Herman Holtz said, and did he make a put a period at the end of his statement? Was it an exclamation? Some of the stuff I've seen has just been unbelievable mental gymnastics. But Helldivers 2 coming to Xbox on the 26th was big enough as it is, right? Because it is a PlayStation exclusive. It's one of it made a lot of money for PlayStation. They own the IP. They do not own Arrowhead. We know that Arrowhead is going to be doing their next game self-published. They made it pretty apparent that they weren't happy with some of the contract bylines that they had to, abide with Sony, and that's why the head of the studio came out and simply said, and I'm paraphrasing here, when you 100% fund your own game, you make 100% of the decisions. That to me was like a bit of a shot across the bow, in my opinion, for Sony. What they do next, who knows? I do think that Brett Bingham is onto something with this potential, and it gets a super potential ODST type of game. That sounds like it really does work in their wheelhouse, right? So who knows if it actually happens, but it sounds dope. So shout out to Brett Bingham for that. But Crispy Bomb, like I was alluding to, the fact that Helldivers 2 is dropping, and I'm using that as a pun, onto Xbox on the 26th was already a big deal. The fact that they're basically already saying that it's going to be some sort of a crossover with ODST is one to everyone should sign up to buy this game. For one, if you want other PlayStation games, how you get those games is by buying the first one. And I think that they're doing this on purpose to get people to buy it, because ODST, I mean, most people, including yourself, have looked at Helldivers and been like, man, that does really seem like an ODST type of game. Well, here it is. We could get skins. Who knows where this thing can go? I want to get your thoughts on it, man.
I mean, I think this is a total win for gamers. This makes total sense. This isn't like some skin that, like I said before, like, Call of Duty, throwing some weird skins in there and all this stuff. And then you look at Battlefield 6 success and you're like, wow. Oh, wait, they went back to like an old OG song from the 90s, okay? 90s, not 2010s, early 2000s. They're going to songs. They're going to this aspect of just let's go, dude. Like, who cares? You could stand on your hill all day. You can cry about things and all this stuff, but in logical sense, I feel like Helldivers, their whole aspect of making Helldivers 2 was like, hey, there's a game out there that did this, but we can make it better, and we can involve like Starship Troopers and all these other things involved. And then, it's a full multiplayer game, like, but it's completely agnostic. I've gotten enveloped into even like Facebook. Like there's a whole group that has like a million people in it. And, they put Xbox right at the end, but they're like, hey, PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and a lot of them are like, welcome Xbox players. And the community is great. Like, yeah, there's a few trolls in there. Of course, there's always trolls. But the fact is that most of them, even if they were on PC or been playing the game, said, if it goes on Xbox, why not get ODST in here? Why not do that? Because, I didn't beat ODST, but I understand the premise. You know what I mean? Like, it's called the Hell Jumpers, people. Like, that's the OG. It's not Helldivers, it's Hell Jumpers. That's the OG. Okay. And why not pay homage? And also, like, Microsoft, they have to have the okay with this. Everybody needs to realize that. So this is a moment we're going to look back on. And the Reach thing, by the way, Boom, I didn't know that either. And I love Reach. And I'm just like, man, that would make total sense, because you could go back to Reach was the fall of Reach, but there was things before that that we never saw. Could you make a game around the fall of Reach? Didn't just fall, if I'm not mistaken. Multiple planets fell.
Yeah.
And I believe they could make something out of that. And that's where I say, like, we're getting to the point where it's about, if you want it, you got it. But
Yeah.
I'm also in the camp. I am in the camp a little bit with Jez Gordon, who's like, why do you need all these weird characters in this military shooter? Can we take some older characters that are in that realm? Kind of like, if you look at Smash Brothers, nobody ever really talks about, but realistically, the way it's laid out is it can absorb multiple different characters, but they're mostly cartoony, right? I mean, like, yeah, you'll have like you know, something a little different here and there, but for the most part, it's pretty much, like these iconic characters. That's what Fortnite does. They do iconic characters. But some of these games aren't really made for that in logical sense. And I think that's why Battlefield 6 is doing well, because, they brought nostalgia back. They also brought, it really, it felt like when I was watching people play it, like a Bad Company in multiplayer, which felt, like I want to play it, and then I'm sitting in the queue and I'm like, no, I'm not doing that right now. So that's where I go and say, like, I have other games to play. And I think this, like any other game, has the potential to really gravitate towards multiple different genres and people, but do it within said genre of PvE and, dominating a landscape or not. I mean, I see a lot of times where they lost territory and all these other things. It's a very agnostic system that they have there. And I'm fully intrigued into it, because at the end of the day, like, yeah, I hear all the time you fight bugs and that's the easiest difficulty. But at the same time, if you want to fight for Super Earth, you gotta do the dirty things, and you gotta die a lot. And I mean, logically, they wouldn't want us just running in there, but in retrospect, they also don't want us just sitting there and being on the bug planets and killing bugs. So I think the ODST thing will kind of give the Xbox gamers a little oomph and be like, no, we know how to play multiplayer. We will figure it out, and we will go into the worst parts, and we will make it our own, and we will dominate. Because I don't know, like, you play with a party of like 10, 15, 20 at some points in certain games, and you're just like, man, everybody knows exactly what they're doing, and we don't even have to speak half the time. And I think
No, I mean,
that's
you're not
something,
wrong.
I think that's something that is going to be like completely like enveloped if they actually do what you said and drop it right off rip. And I think people, even if it's a $20 little, like extra skins or something, people are just going to buy it, and they're not going to say a word, because they just didn't imagine that it would actually happen. And I think it's good on Microsoft. It's good on Sony. In my opinion, I think it's a magical thought process. Maybe they're trying to like make Gears Reloaded, not be what it is on PlayStation. Maybe more people are downloading it. Maybe there's a lot of sales on Xbox they're seeing, but to push this marketing the way they are right now, there's something happening that they're seeing, and they're trying to approach it as like a zeitgeist moment and see it and say, oh, by the way, what I mean? So I think it was very good. I gotta admit, very good marketing, the way to do it, at least for a period of time. Of course, everything changes, but right now it looks perfect, and I'm down. I can't wait.
Look, how you got to look at it is, Chris brings up a great point about potentially an additional DLC pack, right? Like, again, it clearly they're indicating that ODST is going to be a skin. We thought this from the beginning. And by the way, Humbra is on the way back from work, so he should be joining us momentarily, just to give you guys the FYI. If there is an additional $10 or $20 pack that you can buy that turns because again, you got to remember there are vehicles in Helldivers 2. Those vehicles, I mean, they're not warthogs, but they could be skinned to look like a warthog. Look, I don't think this is an accident, folks. I think that this is something that Xbox really wanted to have done. I think at its core, Arrowhead Studios probably really wanted this to happen. We know that, based on the information from last week, PlayStation themselves are the ones that pushed for this game to go to Xbox, which is, again, that shocked a lot of people. That actually happened, ladies and gentlemen. I if you would have asked me 99 out of 100 times, I would have gotten it wrong, because I'd have been like, no, this is definitely coming from Arrowhead Studios, because they've talked about it. I would have never guessed that Sony actually pushed for this. And obviously, this is great for gamers. Like I said, if you talked to Boom 2 years ago, I'd have thought you were off your rocker. Most of us OG Xbox guys have been like, man, that's just never going to happen. Halo on Gears, Forza on PlayStation? Nah, fam, that's not happening. Hey, well, get it. 2 out of 3 is already happening. And there's some rumor that's floating around that the next Halo, which this is not a surprise. This is not breaking news. Is going to be day and date on PlayStation. At this point, who cares? This monstrosity of a snowball is rolling down the hill. You ain't getting it. You just get out of the way of it. Let it go, because it's just happening. Everybody wants to make money. If you just look at what Xbox has done over the years, they always do it first. They always get the arrows. They get the ridicule. The fan base erupts. There's infighting. There's fractures in the fan base. And this is just standard fare for Xbox. Well, that's starting to happen with PlayStation. They are not ready for what Sony is looking to do. And again, second half of the show, folks, we're going to get into why this is happening, what's exactly happening. And this business meeting, even though it's a couple of weeks old, has once again wreaked its ugly head. And everyone's talking about it. So we're going to talk about it. But this Helldivers announcement or, trailer 2 weeks before the actual release date. Because again, today's only the 12th of August. It doesn't launch until the 26th. That's 2 weeks away. That's 14 days. So the fact that they're in front of it already, and they're excited to to share what this crossover. Listen, I'm not going to say apparently. The crossover is happening, folks. You just have to look with your eyes. So what, do they drop the... See, this is... I'm not a marketing manager, ladies and gentlemen, but I'm going to tell you this. If they are reading the tea leaves, as they should, gentlemen, they should drop this DLC pack a week before. Because if a Halo, skins pack is available for Helldivers 2, it's going to be like a frenzy. Like, everyone is... Look, this story right now is exploding on social media. This ODST thing. Like I said, the trailer itself is dope. It's got Here Comes the Boom. It's got a lot of explosions. It's got some comedy where the guy's trying to do the code. One guy drops a pod on one of his teammates, which that kind of happens. Shout out to Risket the Biscuit, who's known for that. Sorry, Risket. This is what I hear. I don't know. But then, it says PlayStation Studios. You think it's over, and then that last 11 or 10 seconds, folks. I'm sorry to say, that's all you need to know. That's a drop pod. That is ODST, and that is New Mobasa. Sorry, it just is. XP Gamer keeps. I actually said Gamescom. Look,
Hey, you might be right.
I am going to say what this is a massive sized rumor. I cannot get this verified. I spoke to a particular person. I am waiting on some clarification. The rumor, ladies and gentlemen, is that there is going to be a sizable PlayStation announcement at Gamescom. I don't know if that's BS or it's not. So take it with a monster-sized grain of salt. I do not have that verified. I have heard from one source. Is it trusted? Yes. It is also unverified. Look, you've heard me mention this before. September 7th, which is around the corner, it happens to be the 7th anniversary of Spider-Man 2018, right? If there is one game that is going to come over to Xbox first, it's not Astrobot, it's not God of War, it's not even Days Gone. It's going to be Spider-Man. The reason why it's going to be Spider-Man is because the MCU themselves are in a bit of a pickle, right? They've, Fantastic Four, reviewed really well. It's just not making as much money as they thought. Spider-Man, the fourth entry, is filming right now. It's been all over the place. They've showed him in the suit. Supposedly, it's going to have Scorpion and a bunch of, old school bad guys in it. So this job posting that we talked about last week that everyone thought was not real could have been a job posting from 6 months ago. We don't really know. It showed up. Everyone talked about it. We talked about it. But what if it was 6 months ago? And what if that process has already been started? Because like I said, there were a lot of people in this community that actually thought that the Helldivers 2 announcement was a knee-jerk reaction from Sony because of the fact that 6 of the top 10 most paid-for games on their store are Xbox games. That's not the way business works, and that's certainly not the way development works. Anyone that's a developer in here, and we know that Brett is, they'll tell you some of these ports take upwards of 6 months, sometimes longer than that. So I don't know when the thumbs up from Sony was for Helldivers 2, but at the same time, that thumbs up could have been for Spider-Man 2018, which it's one of those things that would sell like freaking hotcakes. I'm just saying. So could something like that show up at Gamescom? Because we know Sony is not going to be there in official capacity, right? We don't even know if anyone's going to show up at all. But it would be a pretty. I'll put it to this way. When you consider, gentlemen, and I want to get your thoughts on this. I'll start with Jamie. Jamie, when you consider Europe is like, I think 4 or maybe even 5-1 PlayStation versus Xbox, right? If you were going to try and make your mark in that region, what would be a great way to, how could you do that? Well, you could show up to Gamescom and you could make this big announcement for a PlayStation game going to Xbox. Now, what does that mean for PlayStation gamers? Absolutely nothing. But what it would do for Xbox gamers who are on a much lower level in regards to how many sales versus PlayStation, it would be a big deal. You know what? Before we get to that thought and theory, let me welcome in Infinite Umbra. Infinite, welcome back, brother. Great to see you here. I know, and I don't actually, you know what? I don't know. Did you see, Umbra, the Helldivers 2 trailer that just dropped?
Before I jumped in, good morning, everyone. Before I jumped in, I saw it in the topic. I'm like, wait a minute, what's this? That's what held me up a little bit. I'm like, wait a minute, what's this now? ODST, you say?
Yeah, yeah.
I looked at it, I'm like, hold on now. See, now if they want to sell extra copies, they got me because I'm going to definitely buy it if it's in
There
there.
you go. That's what. Now, if you remember, Umbra, didn't just a week or two ago you said and I said if they were to drop ODST skins, they'd get our money.
100%.
Well, I got some news for you. Now, you're a fan of ODST, right? I'm a huge fan. I've beaten it like I think 5 or 6 times. It is one of my favorite in the series. Honestly, it's just so freaking good. How we don't have another one is gross. But Brett Bingham, who you know in the chat, brought up a really great point. Did you know that 826, more specifically in Halo lore, is the fall of Reach and when it occurs? 826 is when this game is dropping, pun intended, onto Xbox. And he brings up another great point. Did you know that Arrowhead is going independent, meaning that they are going to self-publish their next game? Did you also know that they have specifically made mention of ODST? Well, he brings up a great point. He says Arrowhead could make a ODST game focusing on the fall of Reach in the form of Helldivers 2 and work with Xbox. Now, that is an assumption. That is not happening. It is not confirmed, but it sounds really good. You know what? I want to get your thoughts on this. Before we move on to some of the more pointed conversations, you just said it. This is now a day one for you on Xbox. Do you think that this could be a day one for a lot of people that see the crossover between ODST and Helldivers?
100%. I mean, besides myself, when as I was joining in too, I saw Mint Blitz posted. If you all know Mint Blitz,
yeah,
great
content creator.
Yeah, major Halo content creator and player. Like the dude does stuff that only we can all dream of. I'm like, how did you pull it off? I'm not going against you. Are you cheating? No, he's just that good. And he even posted it and showed that in the city. And I kind of saw that. And after I went into the topics and saw yours, I went back just now as you were talking and saw his. So yeah, I think that this being a legitimate thing, especially with the pedigree that Arrowhead has shown with this game, with Helldivers, absolutely, people would be inclined to jump in and buy it. I couldn't speak to how many, because of the success of other first-person shooters out there and things like that. But I mean, I myself am a super big Halo fan. You're a big Halo fan. We are like, it might sound crazy because we're really big Halo fans, but like there are some who dwarf us. So there are some who would see this and be like, yeah, I'm definitely getting that, and are super fans who would definitely buy into this right here. I'm excited as hell right now just seeing this, and it's funny because it just makes so much sense. And Arrowhead has shown that they have reverence and love for the Halo franchise. If you look at the game of Helldivers, if anyone has played it, you will see how it has like references to Halo in it, from naming of your battleship and things like that. I think it has the Pelican in there and things like that, naming, to the way that they have this, the way they drop in to a planet and such. It's all reminiscent of a shock trooper, like a ODST, or like a Master Chief in a way. So it definitely, and then if you see their social media, they've also always talked positively about getting Xbox guys to get in with them and how they love the Halo franchise and things like that. They've not been shy about it. So it almost seems like they were like letting us know, like, hey, we might be doing that in advance, in so many words, that they would love to do work, I guess, that involved it. So it just seems like it makes so much sense now that I'm seeing this here, and it's like, yeah, we're coming to Xbox. Why not try to get a partnership? Because that's the thing I said. Well, I would love if they could talk with Xbox and Microsoft, worked out some type of deal with them or with Sony or however it would work to get Halo or ODST, armor and for microtransactions or whatever, as I said in the past. And so it just makes so much sense. So if it's actually an event or something like that, and they actually tied it all into that, oh man,
Take my money.
Take my money.
Take my money.
Yes. It's it. I almost started singing like Jodeci. And take my money. He says just that. Take my money. Yes. No, man,
But
sign me up.
Like games.
Yeah, well, we can't listen to the hooligans on that one, but yeah, I'm
hooligans, as he likes
the
to call
hooligans.
them.
Yes, but yeah, no, I'm I have to look more into this right here. I'm going to as we talk and such, but no, I'm excited. I'm excited to see that. And like I said, I own Helldivers 2 on PlayStation 5 and PC. It was gifted to me on PC. I didn't buy it, but still, I have put time in both on PS5 and PC. I would have no problem buying a game again on Xbox, for PC or for Xbox itself, no problem. Especially if, like I said, if they actually do add that into it.